this is to remind me that the logical outcome of urban sprawl is a globe full of grass to cut, which to me is a death sentence, and it's better to use the mind, the body, and the senses, the size of the body, rather than material aspiration to guide the size of a dwelling. And these are competing philosophies. See the world as a world of threat and risk, then the logical response to that is to live in a new box, and many people do that. The better response, if you're not in a war-torn environment, is to see the world as a possibility. That the logical outcome of that is the Keynesian thought of a building as an enclosure or valve. A couple of design ramifications of that. One is that perhaps compact dwellings in a shared framework is the way to go, which is this project has taken, and a cluster of compact dwellings under a shared roof, again, another design driver. The post-industrial landscape is an unavoidable aspect of this project, and I've been accused of being naive about this, and I do accept that it's utopian in a respect, but I do think that corporate responsibility means that rehabilitation of 80 years of contamination, or maybe that's unfair, maybe 60, because in the past few years the land has been capped. I don't expect that in the last 20 years there has been contamination there, but there's a lot of historical contaminants there that need to be addressed, and I think that proper corporate responsibility means that one day there would be $173 million in 6 months funds a lot of soil investigation and a lot of rehabilitation. But it's necessarily, without soil rehabilitation specialists going in there and checking it all out, it's necessarily loose, my response to that. So I'm thinking loose strategies and guesses about what might happen there. But I was inspired. Rick had mentioned the book of Michel Devine, which has been looking at my desk for a good few months now, and he says that in terms of landscape architecture, he's worked on a lot of sites like this, not talking strictly about rehabilitation of soil as such, but he says the point of landscape architecture is to rapidly create in the city beautiful, joyous settings that can be appropriated. Landscape is the sedimentation of collective acts, the witness of usages that have often disappeared, the memory of a world that has sometimes lost its sense for those who inhabited it and who now see only a collection of sites, spaces, bits of nature mixed with housing. I looked at examples all over the world via Google and books or whatever, looking for bits of landscape that I could sample to kind of populate this massive site, which has defeated me at times. And this I found just 2 kilometres up the road. I was walking up Tice Hill in the rain on the way home from the cinema one night, and the frogs were singing their lungs out about this. They were advertising it, they just couldn't help themselves. It turns out it's an old tank farm in a cutting as you go up Tice Hill from the city towards I've read about audience engagement, that's what this is. The ground plane is probably not trustworthy, so number 10 is a pair of heliostat glass houses with a terraced food planting facility. Number 11, which you can see the 1 to 100 model here, is roof water draining into that big tank. This is actually, I was joking before when I said that we had that in the truck. That took me a while on Thursday night to engineer it. It's just a drape or an inflection, which I imagine will be tied down with cables to the tank itself to manage the uplift. But the roof water drains into the tank through that. There's just a disc on top of it to provide just a shallow water plane that you can view from that deck, and the spillage over the sides into the main storage. I'm hoping that would be potable, water. Number 12, the bullets, they're already there, they become water lakes, backfilled. Transport is through 13, including a mechanical workshop, so petrol heads like me can mess with motorcycles. That's usually frowned on in apartment buildings. And bicycles and handcarts would be stored under the residences. Looking to the future, number 14 would be for energy storage once the energy storage issue is tackled, and photovoltaics and other energy intake could be on the rooftop feeding into that. And they're getting serious about this. As I mentioned, I have been called utopian or naive about this, and somebody said, that's $20 million in soil rehabilitation. Well, yeah, okay, again, the number $173 million in 6 months profit after tax. So we about $20 million for a one-off expense doesn't seem so big. And water treatment is at the back here. That's it, right?
You've had them for a while.
Yeah. There's 4 types of apartments there, sort of micro apartments, just over, getting up towards 15 square metres to give you an idea of scale. The green is a queen size bed rather than a tatami mat. That's kind of a concession to Western size, height and size. And just a couple of thoughts about timber. This is one of the great technical authors of the 20th century, Centra. He said that timber is good for making trees, but it's otherwise not to be trusted. Well, that's really the century thinking. That's somebody who's been utterly convinced by the steel merchants. Right? There's reason to think again about that. This has been made for the Venice